Bowers. I'm the director of the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. And I want to welcome everyone to this edition of the Small Business Breakthroughs program. And we're excited for a couple of reasons today. One, this is our first anniversary. We have been doing this for a year, and it's been, I think it's gone great. It's been interesting at times. I remember one time I was doing a session and we got snowed in at home, and so we did it virtually at home, and that was fun. And then there was other times when it's like, I got to be downtown and let's do it. So I'm downtown doing at different locations and things of that nature. But always been great conversation. It's always been really interesting information I think is valuable for small business owners. So we're excited about that. And for those of you that have participated over the past year, well, thank you for your support, and want to continue to look forward to what we're going to be able to pull off this year, because I think we've got some exciting things. The other thing we're excited about is that TJ Eveland from SBC Small Business Consulting is here with us today. TJ was actually our first guest. So if you want to go back to our YouTube channel and see how TJ has changed in the last year, that would be something that you might want to do. But we'll get back to TJ in a moment. But I do want to bring in our partner in this, the Small Business Development Center always partners with the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, the DEC, and Chaz Frutel, who's actually a guest last month. But Chaz is pretty much always here with us, and want to thank Chaz and the DEC for their partnership. And Chaz, if you want to kind of share a little bit about the DEC, go ahead.
Well, Mike, it's always great to work with small business development centers. You were one of our original partners when the DEC was first created back in 2009. And we're just excited that partnership has gone now for, 13 years now, and excited how both organizations have really grown. The DEC, of course, is considered by many to be the largest entrepreneur center in the United States by number of businesses that we host here. And we're excited that we've over that period of time, we've graduated over 180 businesses here. And the most exciting statistic with that is over 90% of those businesses are still in business. So they're beating the tar out of the national average as far as being successful. And we like to think that the DEC had a little bit to do with that, in how we provide, just great services here and a very affordable cost, and really help those businesses to thrive. Considering SBDC is here frequently helping businesses with their business plans and all kinds of other things and services as well. So if anybody that's on today or will view in the future would like more information about the DEC and what we have to offer, and office space and various things like that, you can see my contact information in the chat. Would love to work with you. But Mike, looking forward to a repeat speaker here with TJ and see how he's grown and what he's doing now in his business, and just exciting to be a part of it again. So thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Chaz. And before Chaz cuts out here, I did want to mention, as you can see, for the first time that we've been doing this, TJ and I are actually in the same room. And we've been doing this over Zoom for the last year. And that's been great, because it's allowed us to bring a lot of folks into the program and things of that nature. But one of the things we're able to do is we are at the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center. We're at the DEC, and we're actually at a studio space in the DEC doing this. And I want to thank Chris Borja, his team with Borja Virtual. But Chaz, you want to talk a little bit about some of the things Chris has going on? And he's a DEC tenant.
Well, we're very excited about Chris, and he's one of those many tenants of ours that came in, and he started with one business, and now he's got 3 or 4 businesses, and he's pivoted beautifully through COVID. And his connected networking group is the largest now networking group in Central Ohio. Continuing obviously to do networking events at the DEC, but now he's in co-hatches and just doing all kinds of things all over Central Ohio, and actually now starting to grow internationally, and has opened up a couple new connected locations in other cities in Ohio. So just done some great things, but his Borja Virtual has just been amazing. Lots of organizations and communities have used his networking platform during COVID, and he pivoted with that beautifully to offer those kind of services. And again, we couldn't be more proud of him as a tenant here at the deck and what he's offered. So anybody again would like to get in touch with Chris and the Connected Networking Group, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll make that connection for you. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, this is, I've known Chris for several years. Obviously, it's kind of interesting, TJ, as we talk about Chris, he is, like Chad said, really pivoted and really created a lot of new things through the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of interesting, how he's been able to pull those types of things together. So I want to talk about that in a second, but, again, Chaz, thanks a lot. And if you guys are interested in information on the deck, please reach out to Chaz. Even if you're saying, okay, I don't really need an office, I don't need that. They have virtual space. They have a variety of things you can do. They have hotspots where maybe if you just want to come in and sit down someplace and, or something like that, those are options. But they also do different programming, different things like that. They do different trainings. We're going to start increasing the kind of stuff that we do as we get through the course of next year here at the deck too. So don't hesitate to reach out to Chad. He's a great resource. So we want to go ahead and get started. Again, TJ, I appreciate you coming back on.
Yeah, happy to be here live and in person. That's a nice change.
Yeah, I know it is a little bit different. And want to just kind of, let's get started, maybe have you talk a little bit about, your organization.
Yeah.
And really you, because I think it's your background and your experience, is really what, one of the things that I find interesting when we're talking about small business and working with small business owners. You find a lot of people that, maybe, in the consulting space or the advising space or doing different things. But they're not really running a small business, maybe other than just some sort of small consulting thing.
Yeah.
And then they haven't had the engagement with small business that you have. So that I think makes a big difference as you go through that.
Yeah, it's nice, but we get a view from pretty high up. So a little about me to build a little credibility, or kind of mention why you might want to listen for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm a finance professor at Ohio Dominican, and outside of that, I lead a team of consultants, and we do small business consulting for SBDCs, Ohio MBACs. We work for community organizations, state organizations in Indiana, South Carolina. I think we cover about 6 or 7 states now, where we're helping small businesses from all different industries. I should have looked before I came, but if I had to guess, I would say it's close to 1,700 to 1,800 small businesses, that we've touched in some way over the last year. So yeah, it's nice to have that view, because you kind of see the averages and the trends, as opposed to just touching 1 or 2 businesses and being stuck in one industry. So yeah, my background, I lead this team of consultants now, and we have a lot of help, so I don't want to oversell what I do. I'm kind of out doing things like this, and the real work takes place with the leadership team at SBC. But before doing this, I've always taught finance. I've taught business. I think importantly, I've had a couple small businesses, and I've been lucky enough to have 2 small exits, but we went through the whole business life cycle of developing customers, coming up with the idea, and then gaining revenue, and then being able to sell the business. And I've also had one highly leveraged disaster that that was terrible, but going through both options. One is build it, and then disaster. And then the other 2 were concept, revenue, and then eventually an exit. You have a lot of empathy for people going through this, but you also have a view that you can lend, to where they're not seeing yet. That makes any sense.
Sure.
So at SBC, we kind of took that to heart. And you'll see, if you go down through all of the folks that are advising businesses every day, they are all in some way. They were an entrepreneur. They're currently running a small business and advised, part-time, and do consulting part-time. And that's a very strong belief of ours, is that, we want to coach from the trenches and be with folks. So
sure.
Yeah, it's a great fit.
Great. Great. So the first question that I have, I'm going to go off script at the beginning. No, right on. I mean, the first question really is kind of, coming out of the pandemic,
Yeah.
and where we are today,
Mhm.
what have you seen that's kind of changed about, running a small business ecosystem, those types of things. But where I am going to change a little bit is when we talked about Chris and, organizations like that, that actually were able to not only survive during the pandemic, but they were able to kind of pivot and move forward. And I think that there's always opportunity for that, but there's, definitely still opportunities for people to be, looking at where they're at and look at what the next steps are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 100%. When you mentioned it being the anniversary, I try to think about, think of what we were thinking. That's terrible to say. Imagine what we were thinking about between 2019 and then when we had our first, breakthrough session in 2020, and now we're a year later, and the conversations are all totally different. Within 2 years. So it does move fast. There is a lot of change. Frankly, there's some chaos out there. But folks like Chris and a lot of the people we work with and you work with, they see opportunity in chaos.
Right.
And I think that's something that's really important, is to embrace this environment. This ecosystem is changing all the time. And if you can see the gaps that are happening right away, like Chris did, and like a lot of folks we work with did, there's amazing things you can do for your business. So the time to pivot is not over. There was a time that you had to pivot maybe a year ago, and now the time to pivot strategically for growth as opposed to survival certainly is there. So that opportunity is not past. But one thing, I'll kind of flip the script a little bit about coming out of the pandemic, is there's a lot of positives. I mean, first of all, the pandemic's waning at very least, and the SBA, the SBDCs have a whole new role in the government system supporting small businesses. The SBA wasn't built to do what it did over those 3 or 4 years. The SBDCs, it's kind of the same, right? That jump in demand was huge, and I think that's elevated small business as a political topic, and it's elevated supporting small businesses, especially minority-owned, veteran-owned, women-owned small businesses, as a political topic. And what's great is funding comes with that conversation. So there's more support now for small businesses. There's more resources now for small businesses than ever before. That's a great thing if you're running a small business or starting a small business.
Right.
Not to mention, you've got changes in the marketplace, right? So the labor force has changed, the products have changed, the financial situation has changed. Anytime there's change, there's opportunities for swift, fast, small businesses to beat big corporations to the punch. And that's great. That's where you got to be, is where are these gaps coming up? And how can a small business feel them? There's a lot of momentum and community support now. Think about 2018, I think the aspect of small business was positive, right? Local small businesses. But with COVID, with the political unrest, you really had this focus on support small businesses, keep small businesses alive. That's wonderful. That's a great springboard for a lot of folks to have a successful, trip or a successful run at a small business during a hard time. Now, with that, right, there's some obvious pains that's coming out, and we can get into the details later. But what we're seeing is the labor shortage is hurting everybody.
Yeah.
And we'll get into what that looks like, but the wage situation is very a pain point, for a lot of small businesses now. Worker expectations have changed with the remote preference for a lot of folks, and then a lot of large corporations saying they're not coming back to the offices, or the half weeks in the offices that's hard to compete with, especially for the small restaurants and the small bicycle shops. There's just some things you can't do work from home, and that's hard, because a lot of small businesses then can't beat them on pay, right?
Right.
So you're in a spot there, and this is kind of a macro issue. There's still some fear and sting in consumers. So we're only a year really out of this. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people's net worth investments were cut in half in a week. A lot of people lost a lot of their savings at a time when they lost their job, at a time when they couldn't sell their home. So there's a lot of sting from that, and that's still there in a period of high inflation and supply chain issues. All those coming together can make for a tough environment for small businesses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. One thing I want to mention to everybody who's joining us today, go ahead and put whatever questions you might have into the chat, and we will answer those as we go along. And I said, anything that you might be dealing with, anything that you might want to bring up that might help you or help the good of the order, we'd be happy to talk about that. So don't hesitate to put your comments in the chat. And I want to explore one thing that you talked about. So you talked about this new kind of remote working from home type culture. And obviously, if you're a restaurant, you can't have your server sitting at home.
That's right.
So,
Doesn't work. That's right.
But how do you see this impacting a more, non kind of face-to-face type business, maybe a B2B type business
Yeah.
that has some employees and has some staff and things of that nature, and then they have staffing issues, and now they've got to compete with Nationwide. You saying you can stay at home and do whatever, versus actually getting in the car and going down. So how do you see for those types of businesses dealing with this and the impact of this?
Well, and by those types of businesses, you mean the ones that can offer some type of remote?
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Okay.
We've found that's actually a great way to find untapped labor pools. And I'll give you an example of that.
Okay.
Working with service companies, and this can be skill levels of all type, but working with service companies that are B2B or even B2C. So if you're doing stuff for customer support, if you're doing some type of service offering to a business, if you're a consulting firm, if you do tax support, there's a lot of small tax businesses out there.
Yeah.
Any of those types of things, for example, setting the restaurants and bicycle shops aside. One untapped labor pool that we've had so much luck with, and that a lot of our clients have had so much luck with in really all areas, is non-breadwinning spouses that have so much to offer. There's so many, for example, stay-at-home spouses, right? That aren't the breadwinners, but many of them have a lot of education. They have a lot to offer. They have a lot of value. They have great experience, but they can't do the nationwide corporate thing. Is your green light on all the time, right?
Yeah.
So as a small business, you're not going to beat them on pay. You're not going to beat them on benefits. What you can beat them on is flexibility. You can beat them on mission sometimes, right? So for example, if you're doing work that's helping others, I'll give you our example, other small businesses succeed. A lot of folks that work with SBC, they have other options. They really do. But the mission of helping other people is so important to them. So while you can't compete head to head typically on pay and benefits, you can compete on flexibility and go into those markets and say, look, you don't have to log in at 8 and log off at 5, right? We can offer you this flexibility, the chance to give back. If you drop off the kids at 9 and pick them up at 3, we'd love to have your input and service from 9:30 to 2:30. They're still very valuable people in the workforce. You've just got to meet them there. You got to meet them where they are. It gives so much opportunity, not only to the business to hire, but it gives great opportunity to create jobs, great opportunity for people that are making their way back in the workforce to come in. So that's one example of just, and those populations exist, right? You just got to find them and compete on what you can compete with. Don't go at them with price and benefits. Go at them with flexibility and mission and contribution.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I think that a lot of people get afraid of this type of thing.
Yeah.
They get to thinking, okay, we're kind of coming out of the pandemic now, so what we need to do is get back to what we were doing in 2019.
Yeah.
And everything's really shifted and changed, and new opportunities are there. So things like this and Zoom. In 2019, everything we did was face to face. Whether that be advising or the training and things of that nature. And right now, we're not doing anything face to face, although we're going to start, adding a little bit more of that as we continue to move forward. But it was, the ability to leverage some of these different types of technologies, and the technologies have improved.
Yep.
And people's understanding of that,
Yeah.
and willingness to use that, and the value we see in those types of things.
And it's hugely important, not only to get employees, but to expand geographically. So that's one thing that it does, kind of twice over is you're no longer trying to pull your labor pool from Columbus, Ohio. Right? Even if you want to keep it in the same time zone, which some people do, right? You've got a lot of states to go from.
Yeah.
So your labor pool way opens up. And you've got, if you get, really good at offering this service, there's nothing stopping you from doing it all over if you want the same time zone, right? Or go a time zone back or forward. I say that because a lot of people don't like dealing with that when setting meetings, but
yeah,
but I would caution people that think that everybody be here from 8 to 5 is an option. And if that's okay, if you want to, that's how you run your business, then that's okay. But I, not to sound like promoting my own stuff, but in 2018, as part of my work, with the university, I published a paper on the gig economy.
okay,
Because it was already happening. I mean,
Right.
if you look through the stats, it was kind of happening underground a little bit, in 2018. And then what happened was the pandemic gave everybody a choice to do this or not. So it really opened up a door that was being, slightly open before. It kicked it open and made it happen.
right,
Yeah. So I don't know that we're going back.
right. And I agree. I don't think we're going back in a lot of ways, and I don't know that we want to go back, especially as a small business owner. We talked about, working within chaos and different things like that. I always tell people that that's really, if you're a small business owner and you can look and there's a lot of disruption going on, you're going to find
Jump into it.
the gaps there that may not be there in just a regular.
And you can
old
move
everything's
fast,
cranking,
right? Yeah, pull the lever. I mean, that's 100%. That's there's a saying you hear a lot, and it's never waste a good crisis.
Right.
Right. because we as small business owners can move fast, and if you can move fast, if you can be progressive, that gives you opportunities other folks don't have.
Right.
And you've got to lay on your strength, right? When it comes to labor, price, benefits is not going to be our strength.
Right.
Flexibility and mission and contribution is.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of stay with that and think about what are some other things that, we talked a little bit about wages, we talked about, using some of the technology, but what are some of the other things that you're seeing that businesses are facing as we go into 2023?
Yeah, cost control. I
Okay.
mean, that's a big part of it. We were talking to a restaurant in South Carolina a little while ago, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but the point's still there. They used to pay, for example, 17 cents for a styrofoam cup for a 99-cent drink, right?
Yeah.
And now that styrofoam cup's 79 cents, and they've got to drive 4 states away to get it with their car, just to offer drinks.
Yeah.
And you have those situations where, restaurants, for example, are notoriously low margin, right? They don't, they pay fair wages, but it's not a really high earning wage in most cases. So there's not a lot of margin there for error. And that's what we're seeing is, look, the labor problem is a problem because there's some cap at what you can pay people. People would come to work for a certain amount of money, right? But realistically, you can't do that. So you've got this increasing wages to compete with the warehouses of the world that pay $22 an hour for no experience. At the same time, you've got inflationary periods, and then at the same time, you've got a supply chain issue. Last two are obviously related, but costs are going up, but the buying power is going down, and that's a tough situation to be in. It's a real tough situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we think about cost, I mean, I'm hoping that, here we are in late September, and we're getting into the fourth quarter of the calendar year. I'm hoping that a lot of people are going to be planning and prepping and looking at what they're doing moving into the next year.
Yeah.
And this is the time, I think, to be doing that, because the nice thing is too, because even though the pandemic is kind of ending and maybe stuff in the first half, wasn't to the level that is now, you can still now make some predictions going into 23 that maybe going from 20 to 21, you were still kind of shaky on.
Yeah, you may not like them.
Yeah, well, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you
and
can
that's
make 'em.
important is to,
Yeah.
take that. But when we think about what people should be doing and planning for 23, we're in an economic environment right now
Yeah,
that really is different than even it was, a year and a half ago.
6 months ago.
Right. Yeah. So, we're dealing with, inflation.
Yep.
And if you see, the game plan for the Fed, and if you look back to 79, 80, 81,
Yeah,
the game plan for the Fed is to start to raise rates. And you
Yeah.
can see they're already doing this.
yeah.
And I don't know that they're going to get to 20% like they did in the 80s to try to fight this, but to be honest with you, they probably should.
They've got to hit the brakes.
But they've got to do some things like that. And that is impacting, the economy. It's impacting costs, impacting, a lot of things you're going to be doing going forward. So as you're sitting there now,
Yep.
thinking about forecasting, especially on the financial side, but
Yeah.
you think about forecasting sales and expenses and all of those types of things, what should people be thinking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing is, do your prices reflect right now? It was the price fluctuations we've seen, and especially in service businesses, has been all over the place. In some cases for good reason, but some cases it's throwing darts in the dark, which is really dangerous. So if something I would recommend to every small business is do some type of price investigation right now. Look at your competitive landscape, see if your price matches your competition's, make sure that your prices are covering your costs, which sounds very rudimentary, but some people don't know what their costs are.
Yeah.
Right. So
right.
The first thing you can do is look at the pricing landscape and make sure your pricing landscape reflects the current environment, not the COVID environment and not pre-COVID environment. Right.
Mhm.
So that it's different now. And I can't tell you what it is because it's different for every industry. Some industries, the prices are skyrocketing. Some industries, the prices are going real low because they're just trying to find business. So I would first look at, do my prices make sense on the competitive landscape? From that, then you look at what's my costing model. And you can do this either way. It depends on your pricing scheme. Some people like a cost plus pricing, model that they want to use. And some people like the market value pricing. But looking at your cost structure right now, when the pressure is off a little bit and kind of when, you have time to look at this, when it's not a fire sale, is when to look at your cost structure. So, can you renegotiate rates? Can you renegotiate debt? Is there a way you could, change your payment plans or change your terms? Do you have a credit line in case something does go down where you get a big opportunity that you need to jump on real quick to buy inventory or to buy supplies or perishables or whatever it is? So really, what are my costs, right? What are my fixed costs? What are my variable costs? Regardless of what you're doing, if you go out and do a job and somebody like me was to walk up to you and say, hey, what do you think you got in this job? The answer better not be, I don't know, right?
Right.
Because my next question is, how'd you price it? And we see that conversation happen a lot. Hey, what are your costs? I don't know. Well, where'd you come up with prices? Well, that's what people will pay.
Right.
That's not a way to do it because you're working for free. And and we don't want that. And you as a business owner don't want that either. So I think a study of what's my competitive landscape, what's my pricing look like, and then a study of, okay, what are my costs and what's the model that I have? Both are very, very important for right now. And if you're asking me, what are other things we could do to make sure we're stable, right?
Yeah.
The first is diversify revenue streams. If you have any one customer that's more than 25%, keep that business where it is. Try to sell more, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you've got to flatten that out. You've got to get more revenue streams, and whether that's geographic expansion or service portfolio expansion, it takes a review of a business. Your folks can do that to find out what you should do. But I think customer concentration is a huge thing as far as risk diversion, right?
Right.
So public-private sector, B2B, B2C, B2G. Am I selling to just wholesalers? Should I be reselling? There's all these ways to, okay, I've got the right price, I've got the right cost structure. Now, how can I spread out where that revenue is coming from? Because if something bad happens to the residential or consumer industry, that doesn't always mean that corporate buying is going to go down. Look around you. There's cranes spinning around the air everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's something, a couple things you can definitely do. You know, I would caution people to rethink capital investments right now.
Yeah.
Stuff is just so expensive that if you can't find a high ROI really quickly, rethink capital investments. I'm not sure right now is the right time to be buying, you know, new excavators or new buildings or, you know, new computer systems, unless they're absolutely necessary. And even then, if somebody was to call me or one of your folks, what we're going to ask is, what's the ROI?
Right.
What's the value? You know, I know it's shiny and I know it's cool. And I know you want to tell your friends, but how does that affect your bottom line? And it all goes back to, well, I don't know what my costs are. I don't know what pricing is. So all very, very related. Sorry for the laundry list.
Yeah.
But but I think there's a lot of things that can be done now while there's a little wall, that can really set folks up for, as you asked, projecting out and making sure that the prices are where they should be, the costs are where they should be, and that not only are the prices where they should be, but can you get that out of multiple revenue streams?
Right.
Yeah, that you'll thank yourself halfway through next year if you sit down and do that right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, as TJ said, I mean, these are things that we can support you with at
Yeah.
the Small Business Development Center. TJ's teams actually works with us, and they work with other DCs and different things of that nature. So you don't have to go this alone. So what we're talking about makes kind of big picture sense to you, but you have no idea how to do it.
There's help.
Yeah, there is support,
Yeah.
and you absolutely should do it. So don't not do it because you don't know how, because there's no reason for that.
That's right.
We can help you with that, and there's other folks that can help you with that. You know, your point about, you know, the pricing is important, because I think a lot of people, they get into a panic mode and they start just looking at the competitive pressure. And, you know, I've got to adjust the price, or I've got to do this, or you know, at least I have a little bit of sense for, I didn't make any money last month, so obviously I got to raise the price. I don't know why I didn't make any money.
That's right. That's right.
I got to raise the price.
Yeah.
Well, then you raise the price, and it kind of messes some different pieces and parts up. Or some people, you know, hey, I need more business, so then they drop the price, which is, in my opinion, that's kind of the kiss of death, unless there's a reason for it.
Not always good.
It's
Yeah.
hard to bring it back up
That's
once
right.
you bring it down.
That's right.
So, so understanding that the return on investment is, I think, is critical when you're
Especially
looking at, you're looking at capital purchases and different things of that nature. And I don't know that people always look at it that way.
Yeah.
They say, well, I think this should do this,
Mhm.
or, you know, I should, if I buy this equipment, I should be able to build faster or get it out or do different things. True.
May not be wrong.
But how
right? I mean,
much? You know,
that's right.
That's
right.
That's the thing.
Could you do it without it?
Right.
Yeah. Can you rent it? I mean, that's, we always go to that.
Yeah.
You know, is this something you can rent for a day?
Yeah.
You'd be amazed what Franklin equipment will drop off, right? I mean, you're thinking of
Yeah.
excavators, tree folks, landscapers. It's those types of things. With the interest rates where they are, with the price of things, with supply chain issues, whenever you're buying capital improvement right now, you're bidding against people with more money. And I hate to say that, you know, but as a small business, you're bidding against people with larger budgets.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of creative things you can do. If you go back to last year's business breakthrough, I had a big rant about variable cost models.
Yeah.
You know, very exciting, got millions of hits, I'm sure.
Sure.
But but I do think it's important that people understand that, you know, so a lot of the businesses that survived COVID had variable cost models, and that it's not always something you can do, but it's certainly something to consider. And even if you say to me, you know, if I have a conversation with you and you say, no, TJ, I have a fixed cost model, my answer is going to be, that's cool. Do you know why? If you have a reason why, great. That's your decision to make, and that's probably correct.
Yeah.
But know why you're doing it. I mean, people price wrong because they don't understand costs.
Right.
That's 100%, not 100%, but that's 75% of the time. Incorrect pricing comes from not understanding costs. And if you can do that, you can make your appropriate economic profit, right? You add 20% to it or whatever it is. And then you can go out in the market, and you know, if you lose business, that's okay, because you lost business that wasn't going to pay you well. And that's fine. That's okay. You don't want to work for free.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me expand a little bit on that too. So when we talk about, maybe renting or, those types of things,
Mhm.
talk a little bit about, this concept of partnering maybe with larger firms to kind of
Yeah.
increase business, increase revenue. I didn't really think about it when I was doing this about, as it relates to the cost and things of that nature.
Yeah.
That could reduce your cost or keep you
lot.
better under control. But if we're thinking about it in terms of the ability to increase revenue,
Mhm.
talk about that as a strategy.
Yeah, well, sometimes as a small business, it's great to get a small slice of a really big pie.
Right.
And I will say, when you think about increasing revenue, there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. Doing more of what you're good at is the way to increase revenue. Doing 100,000 new things all at the same time, trying things out, risking your audition with a big partner, doing something you've never done before. While that's fun and exciting, and I get it too, that's not always a great way to increase revenue. So, when you talk about partnering, I'll give you an example. It's not like ODOT or the state or the highway transportation departments are going to hire a small business to rip up 670 and put it back down. Right? Not going to happen. Corna's going to get it. Shelley's going to get it. Somebody big like that. But there's things small businesses can do to get in on that action, right?
Right.
They can do small paving jobs. They can put cones down. They can rent attenuators. They can, help provide support. They can run the night shift on beside of. They can provide staffing of their trained people for a larger company while you're out there.
Right.
So while the 670 project is not going to go to somebody small, you can partner with these other folks. You can haul gravel for them. I'm getting very specific into this,
Yeah.
but you see where I'm coming from, right? A small trucking company can get a lot of great business partnering with Corna or Shelley or somebody,
Sure.
just hauling gravel in, hauling asphalt out. So while those jobs seem like they can't be won, and I think that's accurate, there's a lot of things you can do. Find the job, find the general, and then go after them. That's a great way to do things. Partnering to offer services that you haven't done before is great. I'll give you one more quick example. So we work with a lot of excavating companies. Okay. So a lot of excavating companies, their job is come in and just tear something up or clear land or whatever it is. So excavating companies, a great partner for it. By the way, we love working with excavating companies. If you do that type of blue collar stuff, find other folks that complement your work up or downstream. So an excavating partner could partner with, a landscaping company. So it's not that you just come in, tear things up, and then throw some grass seed down when you leave, which is typically what they do. You can put everything back as it was or better as it was before, right? So you dig the basement, you pull everything up, but guess what? Our folks are going to come back in a couple of months, plan everything, put everything down for you. There's just a lot of ways to expand your service portfolio without trying to do something new, but finding a partner. And the coolest thing is going with that same type of example, that landscaping person that's asked to tear down a bunch of trees or to dig a pond doesn't have to just say no now. There's a partnership that can be made. You don't have to pass on the work.
Right.
Those are just some kind of simple ways to do that.
Right. And I would say, over the last year, we've had a few different programs where we've talked about business certifications and different things like that. So if you have the ability to get, minority certification, woman-owned business certification, veteran-owned certification, certainly women-owned business certification. I mean, there's all kinds of
Huge need.
certification opportunities out there that will help you become, a sub for a lot of these generals.
That's right.
Or, bigger firms that are doing government contracting and, it's a lot of what's going on here. This will help them get the contract.
That's right.
Because of your certification status, and that'll help you get in the door with them.
Yeah.
Again, because of that certification.
You get to audition. I mean, and that's the way you have to look at it is if you land the big anchor, right? So if you get the Cardinal Health job or you get the nationwide job or you get to do some work for Intel or whatever that looks like, you're auditioning. And what we've found, we've seen this a lot, is if you do it once and you do it right, they'll call you back. You know,
Yeah.
these procurement officers, they don't want to shop every time, right?
Right.
If you get on the books and they know if you're expected there, you know, Monday at 8 and you're there, you stand Monday at 8, you do a quality job, and if you do what you said you were going to do, you'll get more work. I mean, that's just it. You have to, as a small business, the one thing you can do is you can make decisions as the owner, which is huge.
Right.
You know, right on the spot. You don't have to run through a bunch of paperwork or do a bunch of things. Procurement offices love that. You know, you can negotiate the contract and sign it on the same day. Procurement offices love that. You've just got to get to them. And that was kind of in my notes to talk about, is one of the things that we see a lot with small business owners is you have to sell. You got to get out from behind the computer, and you've got to sell your services. You've got to network. On the way here, so we've done a lot of business together, right? SBC and the SBDC.
Right.
It took me talking to 3 people that I've never met to get you on the phone. And that's not a shot at you, right? I'm just saying, you know, that's one example of, we've now worked together for 2 years. We talk on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And it took 4 people that I've never, you know, had a conversation with just to get to you. It's going to be more than that if you're chasing the chases, if you're chasing Cardinal Health, if you're chasing Intel. You've got to get out there and work networks. You've got to sell. The audition is great, but to get that audition takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of work.
absolutely. And I think the other thing that is important, and we've talked some about this, but the one thing that I've seen pretty obviously has come to the fore over the last couple of years, when opportunities came up, whether that was opportunities for funding, like, you know, some of the SBA funding, or, you know, some of the grant programs from the city of Columbus and Franklin County or something like that, or, you know, the opportunity to pivot, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
those types of things. Businesses weren't ready. You know, they didn't,
Yeah.
you know, we saw all the time around the funding piece that this is due, you know, here's the opportunity,
Mhm.
it's due here, but this business, well, they don't have their taxes done from last.
That's
year.
right.
They don't have this.
No
They
books.
don't know any of
Right.
these types of things. And then they can participate.
It was,
You know, the need to get themselves up, ready, but be prepared, you know, to be able to do these things. Because if you call, you know, get in with a contractor who's involved with the new Intel project or whatever, you know, they're not just gonna say, oh, okay, Joe, cool.
sure, right?
Come in.
Yeah.
I need somebody, come on in. I don't know who you are. And I don't
Right.
know what you do.
Yeah.
You got to be able to show them that you know what you're doing,
You got it.
and that you have the financial stability to do the work.
Yeah. So number 2 on my list of things to talk about was show your capability.
Yeah.
That's a huge, when you get the chance to talk to somebody, do you have the financial wherewithal to do the job? That's something we talk about a lot. I'm sure your folks do too. You know, a lot of these places, you're going to front the materials, you're going to front the payroll, you know, and some of these bigger jobs will pay on 120-day terms. So if you don't have 3 months of payroll set aside, you can't take the job. And that procurement officer knows that. That procurement officer is going to look at your books, assuming you have them,
Right.
and say, how are you going to pay your folks until they, you know, until we pay you, if it's a big job. They want to know that you're sustainable. They want to know you can deliver, and they want to know that you have the capabilities. Have that ready.
Yeah.
You know, it's that networking that gets you there. You call the SBDC, you call somebody else to help you out and say, hey, I've got the shot to pitch, right? How do I show my stability? How do I show my capabilities? How do I make sure they know I can deliver on this? Because if they're talking to you, they're talking to 3 other people as well, right? That's the
Yeah.
procurement office rule. You get 3 bids, and you need to know how to beat them out. And that's really, really important. So yeah, can you deliver it? Have you done a similar job? Have you done a job for somebody they know? If you're out chasing FedEx or sorry, if you're out chasing Facebook or Google jobs or Amazon jobs, you know, there's a lot of that going on right now, and you've worked for any one of those 3, that's beautiful, because they, you know, they have a lot of rigorous requirements, and that'll get you there. So leverage some great job that you've gotten into another way to talk to a big anchor.
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned something that's really important. I think a lot of small businesses don't understand this. They want I want this big contract. I want the contract. You know, so-and-so connected me to this person, and they've got a big opportunity here. And I know I can do the job, but they don't understand the pay terms. They don't understand that they've
There's a
got
lot
to
going
front
on.
it. They've
Yeah.
got to have the resources to do that. And part of that can certainly be a line of credit. So that would be, important to be prepped to do those things. If you're going to do this kind of work, getting a line of credit, I think, is important. But then know that that line of credit is going to be impacted by, rising interest rates too.
Well, it sure is.
And,
Yeah,
if
you're gonna
you
pay
say,
10%
well, I'm
on
going to do this and this is going to be my thing and I only pay interest when I have money on it, things of that nature. All that's true.
Yeah.
But know that that's going to, at minimum, adjust every quarter.
That's
And
right.
Probably
maybe
when it
even more so
happens.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, thinking forward, you've got to be able to think about, how your costs are going to be impacted by these types of things.
Yeah. And I don't want to make it a commercial for the SBDC, but people that have done this before know what questions to ask. There's a chance when you come in, you can renegotiate that with the purchasing office. I mean, if you're a
Yeah.
small business and you happen to be minority owned, veteran owned, women owned, like you talked about, some type of certification, they want to do business with you.
Yeah.
And there are terms you can negotiate in your contract. If you just take it as is, you're going to get 120 days and that's what it is. But so lines of credit, terms you can negotiate, there are different ways. You may not know, you might have to buy a $10,000 insurance policy just to walk on their floor.
Yeah.
There might be drug testing policies that you got to deal with your folks now just to get to have that job.
Mhm.
Just don't do it yourself. I mean, there's guidance out there, and we're in an environment right now where everything's pretty well funded. You can get guidance for cheap or free.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing too, with that, if it's not a good deal for you, don't take it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Say no. Yeah. Well, and it goes back to, how do you know if it's not a good deal to you if you don't have books?
Right.
If you can't look at this and say, here's what it's going to cost, how do you know what to bid?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We just went through, a story. We just had a client lose a public bid. And, he was really upset about it. We kind of talked to him, everything. He said, all right, at that cost, what would that have made you? Well, we'd almost broke even. Well, then they did you a favor.
Yeah.
You hate to say that because you want to keep your folks working, but you don't want to do it for free.
Absolutely. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, if it's not going to work for you, be willing to walk away from it because, there's going to be other opportunities.
Mhm.
And if you get into this thing and you're barely breaking even, but a lot of time, you're not going to be able to do the other one that's probably going to
That's
make
probably,
you money.
yep, that's exactly right. Or run off customers that, like you said, could have been great. Pulled you away from your wheelhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to touch before we go, we talked a little bit about staffing. We talked about those types of things,
Mhm.
but, talk a little bit more about, how staffing really is impacting these businesses and their ability to compete and fill orders and do what they need to do.
Well, greatly. It is, and it's industry specific.
Okay.
That's everybody needs more people. It kind of seems like, right? So there's a lot of people that didn't come back to work after the pandemic. There's a lot of people that changed their lifestyle, because they found out, hey, I like being home with my kids, right? And they left their job and changed their lifestyle so they can afford that. So you did have a true exit of the workforce, right?
Right.
And as you know, that changes supply and demand a little bit. At the same time, you've got places, that are the Amazons of the world, right? They've got a lot of resources. They can pay their people well. Warehouse jobs are paying a lot of money, and they're building warehouse after warehouse after warehouse. So there's no easy answer. It is affecting, what we're seeing is really small businesses across the board. But again, it goes back to compete in the labor market with your strengths. Don't go against Amazon and Nationwide or the big corporations with pay and benefits. How can your job be done in a more flexible way? How can you meet people where they are and start looking for pockets? That's we have a lawn service that we work with, and basically everybody that works for him is retired. Guess what? You're out on nice days. You're mowing the lawn. You get a little bit of exercise. It's not a high stress job. So he's found a pocket that he can pay a decent wage to. They get to contribute back into the community, and it's been a great way for them to staff. So flexibility and creativity are huge right now.
Let's see. So we do have one point in here where Nicole Simpson, who does work with us.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
she's great. You know, she mentioned here, you know, that, you know, insurance is something that also impacts the ability to get these contracts. Because a lot of people, again, they don't think about that.
Yep.
Or they have just whatever they did. But, you know, to be able to do this, these companies want to make sure that you can do the job.
Yeah, and if you can't, that you've got backing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you know, it's a sign of professionalism that you have an insurance binder, you know, that you can hand over right away with your bid. Even to be able to say, because if you talk to a purchasing agent or somebody that's, you know, hey, what's your bonding look like?
Mhm.
You better have an answer to that. You
Yeah.
know, so that's Nicole. You know, not surprisingly, is exactly right.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that if you're going to partner with big anchors, and a technique we like is partner with a partner.
Okay.
So if you found somebody that's already successfully done this, right? So if you found, you know, somebody that gets the big job, find a way to work for them, because just the name recognition, just the fact that you can say you were part of X big job, right? You've worked for this large company, even if it's as a sub to a sub, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Even if it's a sub to a sub, you're still in the game, and you don't have to sell to the Chases or to the Amazons of the world. You can sell to their contractors, sub with them, do what you're good at. You get to be on the floor, you get to learn the vocabulary, you get to meet the purchasing folks sometimes. And that's a great way to sneak into that business without cracking the Amazon code. You can sub to their sub and get a little bit of exposure to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're getting ready to wrap up here, but I do want to do, before we go, I want to thank the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center for their support for the last 9 or 10 years. I don't remember exactly how long we've been, the deck's been involved, been up and running, but I think it's that long.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Notably
great
easy to
success.
find too. It was right
Yeah.
off, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's great success. And want to thank, you know, the deck for all the years of support, but also the last year supporting this, because again, it's been something that we wanted to be able to reach out to small businesses. And at the time we started last year at this time, we just couldn't go out and say, hey, you know, we couldn't be in the same room.
I was in my basement.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I want to thank the deck for that. I want to thank Chris and Borja Virtual for their support on this particular episode with the facility here and the studio. And we are really happy that we're able to actually be in the same room to do these types of things. And TJ and I, he made a point recently that, you know, we have been working together for 2 years, and I think we've only met personally maybe once, and that was at a retirement.
This is the second time.
Yeah. But we talk all the time.
That's right.
And we work together all the time. But, you know, it's the first time we physically, or second time we've physically been together. So that's great, and really appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody at the Small Business Development Center, all the team that has worked with us. I want to thank all of your team that's worked with us to support small businesses and things of that nature over the last couple of years, because it's made a difference and makes a really big impact for individuals. So with that, we'll kind of get to our final question. It's always the same question where I ask, okay, what should folks do, you know, in the next 24 hours or by midnight or something like that?
Oh, 24 hours.
Yeah, I'll give you 24 hours. I mean, it's usually midnight, but I'll give you 24 hours. Though now last year we talked a lot last year about call your customer. Interact with your customers. We really haven't talked a lot about that today, but we've got to get at a bigger level today. But you know, obviously that's always important.
Yeah, well, 24 hours cuts it down to what can you do tactically.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if I had 24 hours to move the needle, I would call all my customers and call all my employees. I'm here. Thank you. You know, we love doing business with you, or thanks for being part of the team. Is there anything we can do to make this relationship better? I think if you only have 24 hours, that outreach is missing in today's environment. And it's very important, especially in virtual worlds like we live in. So yeah, 24 hours, call and get the feel of everybody. You know, because it's only successful if both sides are on your team.
Right. And if you're not doing that, if you haven't had a good interaction with your customer, because you know, swamped, or you're busy, or you've short staffed, or you've got to do whatever. I mean, there's reasons for it, but to be successful, you've got to continue to foster that relationship.
Yeah, it's time well spent.
Absolutely.
Time well
So
spent.
let's say I gave you more than 24 hours. What's kind of one thing that you would say, hey, absolutely. We've talked about cost, and maybe
Yeah,
that's it. We've talked about pricing, we've talked about prepping, different things like that. I mean, what's some, kind of maybe the number one or two things that they absolutely should be doing right now, as we sit here in September of 22.
Yeah, well, I'm a finance guy, so I would say if somebody came to you and said, how much does that cost? You better be able to answer it. If you're doing a job, if you're building a house, if you're digging a hole, if you're doing somebody's hair, if you're serving them a plate of food, and somebody says, hey, what do you got in that? Know the answer. And I don't mean memorize the answer, that's a waste of time, right? But know how to get the answer. That comes from having good books.
Yeah.
No one wants to do that, but what we tell people is that's the cost of doing businesses. You wouldn't not pay your taxes, right? That's a cost of doing business. Doing books and understanding your cost structure and what things cost you. I don't know how you're pricing things without it. So if you had a little bit more time, outside of fostering good relationships with customers and employees, that's critical. It's understand your cost, because that'll drive understanding prices, right? And then that'll drive more cost efficiencies if things do turn south again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times you get a lot of small business owners. I mean, I think that, I'm looking at the folks that are here, they're somewhat sophisticated, they know what they're doing. But I mean, we see a lot of small business people. There's been a lot of small businesses that were started over the last couple of years, which is great. But they think of, okay, I've got to get my receipts, I've got to get this on bookkeeping so I can pay my taxes. And I can do my taxes.
Yeah.
But they don't understand kind of the managerial accounting component.
That's right. And it's not expensive to have done for you.
Yeah.
I mean, so just to be very clear, I'll be quick because I know we're close on time. I'm not recommending everybody be their own accountant. If you build houses or if you do hair or if you run a restaurant, you're probably not a good accountant, right? You're just not.
Yeah.
But I'm not either. I'm a sales guy. I'd make a terrible accountant. But understanding your costs, getting somebody to do that for you is of critical importance. So it's not like, go home at night and learn to hate your business because you're crunching numbers all the time. That's not what we suggest. Find a service that'll make meaningful entries for you and provide you with a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement, and a cash flow statement at the end of each month. And frankly, you can call SBDC to help learn how to use those for free, right? But you've got to get somebody doing them for you. So please don't think I'm suggesting to go be an accountant. It's not what you're good at. But you got to run a business and you got to go get revenue, but get somebody to help you with that so you can make informed decisions and know what your costs are.
Absolutely. Let's see. See right there, we got a QuickBooks question.
Oh, good. What
wants to follow up on
I can't see that at all.
after the meeting for the office. So that's it's great. So I want to thank you.
Yeah, for
I mean, not just for being here, or not for being here last year, but again, working with us. I mean, there's been times when I'm trying to think through something as it relates to projects that we're both involved in.
Yeah.
And I just let me call TJ and we'll kind of walk it through.
Say it out loud.
And think, and that's certainly been helpful as we've gone forward. So again, thank you for all your support and thank you for being here. I think this has been great. Obviously, I want to thank Bruce Walters, who's on our SBDC team. He is the back end of all of this all the time, and does a great job in terms of managing the chat and managing the intake and all of those types of things. So want to encourage everyone to move forward. If you have an interest in contacting the SBDC, it's sbdc@cscc.edu. We are part of Columbus State Community College. Got to thank them too. So don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we have folks that can just have interactions with you and share, have dialogue if nothing else. So feel free to do that. And we're looking forward to the next year of these small business breakthrough programs, more, kind of live things. We're actually planning to have an actual live event with an audience.
Oh, I like that.
in December at our annual Capital Crash Course program. So again, check out our website, which is sbdccolumbus.com, for more information on that event, and look for some exciting things going forward. And again, thank everybody for joining us, and we wish you the best of success, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.